Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mystic Journeys Church. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't hear the music. I was trying to get my headphones connected, but we're good, I think. Guys, welcome to today's episode. We're talking about the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to get into the first chapter today. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what's the terminology here? Action and um, disconnection. Oops. Nerdy, Derek, how are you guys doing? Sorry, I'm totally unprepared. I was trying to get my headphones connected.
I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
I'm getting ready to go live later. Oh wait, it's here.
Cheers, cheers. Um, yeah, I got us a video, a little clip on The Hobbit that kind of goes along with the Bhagavad Gita, and then I'm also going to do an Alan Watts reading on the Bhagavad Gita as well too. It's great stuff today. Great stuff. Thank you guys for being here as usual. All right. Actually, I want to start off with reading the Alan Watts kind of summary of the Bhagavad Gita here. It's going to be kind of a little bit of a palate cleanser to get us into the actual story here. So I'm just going to start off. This is about a 10-minute reading or so. So the Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Gita, the Song of the Lord, spelled Bhagavad, Bhagavad Gita. It's a Hindu Sanskrit that talks about this story of this Lord Krishna, who is kind of the embodiment of what we think of as God or spiritual being. And he's having a conversation with a soldier on the battlefield. Krishna, who in Hindu mythology is regarded as an incarnation and embodiment of the Sanskrit language, an avatar or a supreme lord of the personification of the ultimate reality underlying the universe. The Bhagavad Gita was probably compiled about the 5th century BC, and it forms part of the great epic called the Mahabharata. And it is attributed to a sage by the name of um, Vasaya, or sorry, Vasha. I'm gonna butcher these names, guys. You got to bear with me because it's Hindu Sanskrit. So, um, and it contains a complete epitome. Um, the whole central doctrine of Hinduism, known as the Vedanta, is very fascinating to us and puzzling. The fact that Gandhi, preeminently the man of nonviolence in modern times, was so devoted to this book because of the scene in which the book opens in a battlefield, the field of Kuru, where a young prince by the name of Arjuna is riding his chariot, and Krishna, the incarnation of Vishnu, in, in is his charioteer. As the opposing armies face each other and the battle is about to begin, Arjuna is faint in heart and oppressed with the senselessness of this. The struggle and internation of warfare, saying that he's telling Arjuna that victory and defeat rather are the same, and he's urging him to act, but not to reflect on the fruit of the act. He says to him to seek detachment, fight without desire. You say you forget desire, seek detachment, yet you urge me to battle, to massacre. Krishna tells him, don't withdraw into solitude. Pronunciation is not enough. You must act. Yet action mustn't dominate you in the heart of action. You must remain free from all attachment. There's another intellect. There's another intelligence beyond the mind. Primarily, Arjuna's objection to taking part in the war is a sentimental one. He's unwilling to fight in the battle because his depressed emotions in regard to slaying his kinsmen, or we would say in regard to slaying one's own fellow man. If one would be a pacifist because one is merely squeamish, sorry, if one would be a pacifist because one is merely squeamish and is the kind of person who one would say, well, he couldn't even hurt a fly, then surely there's something phony about such pacifism because it is sentimental. This does seem to be the origin as objection And this is why Krishna says, in effect, your objection to slaying is a fear of slaying, a squeamishness to slay and becoming, and because of this, you do not have a genuine objection to slaying. Sorry, let me reread that. Your objection to slaying is a fear of slaying, a squeamishness to slay, and because of this, you do not have a genuine objection to slaying. If you refrain from taking part in battle because you are frightened of so during, or because you are sentimental, you are not the kind of person who really has the right to abstain from battle. Now, why does he say this? The reason is that the Hindu mind, one who abstains from what might be an evil action through fear, has not really liberated himself from evil. Krishna would say that so long as our conduct is motivated by fear on one hand, or by desire on the other, we are incapable of performing a truly moral action. Only those actions that are truly moral, which are unmotivated, because if you are motivated to do good by fear, your good name under other circumstances be evil. This is the case where the original This is the case with the original, sorry. He wants to refrain from war for the same reason which many other people would engage in war. Many people would engage in war because they're afraid, and they're not at all because they hate the word or hate the world. Um, Someone might start a war because might start a war would be for fear of the other side starting it first. After after all, we know that modern warfare is something which neither side wins. It is then fear more than anything else, fear that the other follows. Or sorry, that the other oh my goodness. That the other fellow should send bombs over to win first. It's what starts war, and thus you see fear is no deterrent to war at all. The principle you see, which he enunciates, is to act without attachment to the fruits of action. And that's very important. We're going to get back to that here in a minute because that's the attachment part I was talking about. To act without attachment to the fruits of action, to do what you have to do without seeking either evil or good from it. Now, this is simply another way of saying to act without motive. Seems, of course, from our point of view, impossible that human beings should act without motives. In our Western way of thinking about ethics, we judge the quality of an action by the quality of a motive. And the whole notion of an action without a motive at all seems to be extraordinarily foreign to us. But as a matter of fact, there's no such thing as an action without motive. There's no such thing as free or moral action, because as so long as we have our motive, our actions are not actions. They're simply reactions. Surely it's obvious that our motives are determined by our conditioning, our environment, our heredity, our social structures, and they give us motives. And these motives of the past determine the way in which we act now. And it's my motive for doing good is sorry. Now it's my motive for doing good is the sake of some sort of reward, or whether it's in an ancient sense or going to heaven, or the modern sense of being a real person or a regular guy, whether it's fearing an ancient sense of going to hell, or in the modern sense of being a cad. I act motivate. Sorry, being a cad. I act motivatedly, and therefore the things which I do by the way of moral action are not actually free. In the West, we have rather inconsistently, but nonetheless rightly insisted, a moral man must be a free man. A free man must be an unmotivated man. How can one reach the truth if one's born is an illusion slowly put through all the fibers of his spirit? He has showed the deepest movements of his being and battle his true battlefield, where you need neither warriors nor arrows, for each man must fight alone. It's the most sacred knowledge he has and the truth that's in him. Um, finish up here. Alan Watts continues. He says that if you've listened to any of his other programs, that Krishna is talking about here is what I was talking to you about in the Upanishads. I explained that at several points of the fundamental doctrine of the Hindus, that this is the innermost reality of man is not quite aware of what we have been brought up in the Christian tradition called the soul. We have inherited teachings, of course, of an immortal and individual soul, which is the root principle of every human being. But in the Hindu doctrines, the soul is not an individual. The soul is a supra individual, or as they would say in other technical language, the Atman, the soul or the self. There's really a better translation than so the Atman is identical with the Brahman, which we're going to get into as well. Um, I think now I don't want you to think of Brahman as sort of a vast blob of perfect transparent jello which penetrates from the whole world. I think that's what many people imagine when they hear this kind of thing. The whole point of the Brahman is an idea is missed when you form an image of it in your mind. Even empty space or boundless light. It is what our cells really want in this whole universe fundamentally. And actually, there is no way of thinking about it, imagining that a very simple reason that as water cannot rise higher than its own level, thought cannot think what is higher than thinking. It cannot conceive the mind which thinks, and still less the power which it generates. The mind are symbols for ideas about the supreme reality are vague and voidish. Not at all because of that the reality is vague, but it's because of our thoughts. All right. All right. Now I've rented for 10 minutes on that. You guys go ahead and give me your thoughts on that, what I just read. That's it. Again, that's Alan Watts' kind of overview on the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Would you like to start, Derek? Or would you like me to?
You can go, Nerdy.
Okay. All right. This honestly reminds me of what Pops was reading from the Tao this morning about, not being attached. Also, no assumptions. The third agreement, like Pops is saying here in the chat. It's a matter of not having those expectations, which is also an assumption.
Definitely. It also, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it also speaks about, so the Tao means the way, right? So it's, the things that can't be explained with words. And the second you try to explain them with words, it's not the Tao anymore, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry to cut you off there. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. That's all I had.
Yeah. Derek, what do you think, man?
I think it touches on, that speaks a lot about the, just not having, like Nerdy said, not the expectation, but, like if water's flowing, it's not questioning why it's flowing in one direction. It just flows, and to not strike first is, like a Bruce Lee thing. Like he was big on that, and then, it strikes itself, and to not fight what's and just go with it, not worry about, concern yourself with, striking first and having, because you could totally read the situation wrong. So to just stop and, observe is a lot more important than action sometimes.
Well said, man. And I kind of had that here in my notes about it's better to be a warrior in the garden than the gardener in the war. I've talked about this before. It's kind of the same concept. You want to rather be prepared. And that's a perfect segue into this next clip, Derek. Let's go ahead and play this real fast for you guys. It's from The Hobbit.
Here. This is about your size.
I can't take this.
The blade is of elvish make, which means it will glow blue when orcs or goblins are nearby.
I have never used a sword in my life.
And I hope you never have to. But if you do, remember this. True courage is about knowing not when to take a life, but when to
Yep, and then I think it'd be a couple earlier, but it's knowing when to spare one, not when to take a life, but when to spare one. I love that. That's a beautiful clip, and I reference that clip so much in my everyday life and conversations with my friends because, you know, it's a balance. Life is a balance of yin and yang, right? A balance of being compassionate and being empathetic, but also not letting people walk all over you. And it's not knowing when to take a life. Like I mentioned here in the reading, it's not our attachment to killing someone that we should be thinking about. It's our attachment to the goal, the greater good, doing a greater thing. And nerdy, I forget what it was that I was trying to think about it for the show. What you had mentioned this on a previous episode about how, when someone's doing something extremely horribly wrong, it's like not necessarily a thing for us to kill them, right? And I agree with that. 99.9% of the time, I agree with that sentiment. But I think there are exceptions to the rule where, if you don't end up hurting or end up killing someone, that they're going to kill you. And sometimes it might be, a fellow brother, or literally your brother, right? And we have to get to those moments in life where we have to make these really tough decisions. And the way how you tell you're courageous isn't by knowing when to take a life; it's knowing when to spare one. And it's really difficult to do. I mean, this starts to get into the idea of modern day warfare, just like Alan Watts was speaking about. The idea that when your soldiers are going through this conflict in their head of, do I detach myself or do I try to make myself fully empathetic? And where's the line here? You understand? It's very difficult.
You're also in that initial reading. You were talking about how basically everybody's reacting to everything, and what they're reacting to, from what you were reading, is fear. So I think this is more of a practice of not reacting to your fear. So if you're not reacting on fear, you won't have the inclination or the need to kill somebody.
Yes, sir. And 100%. And how do you not act on fear? Well, we have 4, maybe 5 great examples of how you not act on fear. You stay impeccable with your word. You make sure you don't take things personally. You make sure you don't make assumptions or have expectations. You make sure you always do your best. And if you're doing those things, then somebody's trying to interfere with your space, and then you might have like a different thought. Like, I'm practicing my agreements, I'm doing everything I can, and it's still not working. But I think if we're because that's the whole idea of our 4th agreement, is if we do all of our other 3 agreements, we can live our life without regret. But I think if we don't, we live our lives with regret. We live our lives with fear when we hold that against people. Derek, what do you think, man?
Yeah, Derek.
Sorry, go ahead.
I
No,
think,
go
I
ahead.
think fear is such a thief, because
Yeah.
I think of times in my life, like, say I'm waiting for an answer from the doctor, for a test or something like that, and you have all these thoughts thrown through, and scenarios going through your head, and then all those thoughts and everything, they're not going to change the results. They're just stealing your time and stealing you. I mean, fear is like really our enemy. And if we can just control our
Yeah.
thoughts and not give into fear and not, what if and go through all those processes and just, kind of just, give the result, whatever my thoughts are not going to change the results, or even, sometimes I know texting with people and stuff is really impersonal because they don't get any kind of like inflection or tone with words like that. Versus if I texted nerdy
Definitely.
at you, he might not get it if I the same as if I spoke it to him. He might take offense to it. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So stuff like that can be really misinterpreted. But if you're doing your best and speaking impeccably, those are things you're not gonna have to worry about.
Yeah, very well said, man.
I've got one of
Nerdy?
these Rage Create cards that might be relevant.
Okay,
Says,
sweet.
my truth is as pure as I react, and I react with benevolence. And the back says, it's tough, but being nice to all humans, creatures, and aliens is the honorable play. Even if a meanie weenie is slandering, criticizing, or giving you a swirly, you don't know what kind of stink a meanie has been subjected to, whether it be emotional trauma or literal shit in their pants. Reacting to meanies by being a meanie is only a win for Team Meanie. Instead, smile and radiate kindness toward the troubled soul. Your truth is as pure as how you react. Lead by example and with benevolence. It gives permission to the meanie to heal.
Then it's very difficult, dude. Just like, where does the fine line draw? Where do I stay empathetic, or where do I try to protect myself? I like to think of
Maybe
this
maybe you
unique
always stay
psychology.
maybe you always stay on that empathetic side and stop making excuses for bad behavior.
100%. But hear me out, because there's this psychological experiment that I always talk about whenever this idea comes up. And it was this guy, and he was a psychologist, and he goes out to a bar, and this guy tries to start a fight with him. Um, and he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" Um, he's like trying to like talk him down, basically, just to your point about we choose empathy in the most situations where people would drop their morals, right? Well, he starts talking to the guy, and basically he uses this aversion tactic by saying to him that the walls outside the building are taller than 6 foot. And the guy's like, "What are you talking about, man?" So then ends up basically like bringing him down, and he ends up talking to the guy. And the reason why the guy was out is because his wife was cheating on him, and he went through a divorce, and he was literally going out trying to fight with somebody. So sometimes you give people exactly what they want in a situation like that. But that being said, where it's like I said, there has to be a line somewhere, right? Because if we just let people with no empathy rule the world, then that's what you get. You
Well,
know,
just because
because
I
those people
have no
don't
intent of ever
practice.
killing anybody doesn't mean
Right,
I'm not willing to drop a guy with my taser.
right, 100%, 100%.
um,
But
I've I've been in situations like that where someone was trying just that was his only intent. I was driving for Lyft or Uber. I don't remember which one at the time. I did both. But
right,
guy just trying to start a fight. I'm like, dude, like if you have no idea what you're walking yourself into, I am calm, cool, and collected, and I'm about to tase you.
yeah, 100%.
Don't be shocked what happens next, buddy.
Hmm.
I just think that the people who are willing to kill are probably not the people who should be killing. But I think that the people who like are conflicted about it, those are the people that should be in charge of who dies, because they are going to make sure that they can do everything in their heart and their power to make sure this person lives. If there's any justification or like,
Right.
um, I don't even know what the word would be, like a chance for them to be renewed, like as a person,
And
to change
and there
themselves.
was absolutely no hate in my heart when I almost tased that guy,
Yeah, right, 100%.
and I
Right.
didn't have to. I didn't
It
have
shouldn't be
to.
joy. It shouldn't be hate. Right. And that's how you know you're acting right. And that's
Hmm.
what I'm saying. That's what Krishna is going to explain here in a little bit about how it's acting on a higher thought. And we shouldn't be ashamed of ourselves if we do that. Because I've seen this before where people have killed somebody defending themselves. And, in their heart, they're like, they feel horrible. And should they feel bad about it?
Depends.
It's a debate. Yeah, that is the debate. It depends. It totally depends on the circumstance, who they were, what their intentions were, how they really felt about it afterwards. Yeah, it totally depends, brother. I have to say, it's obviously not the same situation as somebody going out and trying to murder someone, right? They were living their lives and they were defending themselves. But it's the whole ENFP INFJ debate. It's like the power of the pen is mightier than the sword till it's not. Because just like Alan Watts was speaking about, sometimes our words are just not enough. Sometimes the power of what we can utter out of our first agreement is just not enough, and we have to put action into it. We have to step forward and actually do the thing. And even people like Gandhi, who, just like you and just like me, man, they try to live a life of the most utmost empathy and compassion and never want to hurt a human being ever in their whole life. They still look at stories like this, like The Hobbit, as little gems. Like, wow, I hope it never comes a day where I have to hurt anyone. But I suppose if it got there, like, I would hope that I would have the strength and the courage to be able to do it. Because again, the courage is it knowing, like, when to take a life, it's knowing when to spare one. That's whenever like the real conflict comes around your head. It's difficult, man. It is difficult. That's why I like the idea of this, talking about this, because these are really strong spiritual feelings. Because it's the hardest thing a human being arguably could do, is learn how to love and learn how to hate. And you have to learn how to do both. Because if you're like, oh yeah, all I do is love, all I do is love, it's like, dude, that's a one-sided experience, even if it's true, right? Because to be able to experience love, you have to have hate. And to be able to experience hate, you have to have love.
I don't
To be able to
have to
experience
hate.
night, you have to have day.
I don't need to hate anybody. Some people's behaviors definitely make me sad, but there's a certain level of understanding that goes with it. You know, we're animals, we're human, we're all flawed.
Can I
But
ask you, have you hated, you have hated in your life before?
yeah, absolutely. But
And is
I
that what
understand that it's
hates
not
you?
good for me and it's not good for
Right.
anybody else.
I call it
So
touching the hot stove.
I don't
By
feel
hating,
like
you learn.
it was ever justified.
Okay. Yeah, but it
Um,
taught you, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I know.
But at
Had
the
to
same
self
time,
taught you.
like everybody tries to figure out a way to justify the worst.
Right.
And
100%.
the more I think about it, I'm like, there really isn't any justification for violence unless you're defending yourself. But even then, what are you defending?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, man. And in the situation of like this, it's a battle, right? This is my whole argument is that whenever it's a group of people that are literally trying to kill each other, yeah, there has to be a point where we have to stop the madness and we have to like, you know, put our guns down. And I talked about this. This is the way I think. This is the way that I am. But I also think that if we just let evil overtake us, sitting here and being like, "Oh, guys, please just have some empathy in your heart, and if you kill me, it won't matter anyways." Like, yeah, but that's for the history of the world, like for the mankind and humanity. The reason why we made it this far is because of somebody who is courageous enough to pick up a sword and fight for good, even though he didn't want to kill. And that's a fact of the matter.
Right.
We're here because, like I said, there's been a lot of hate, a lot of evil, a lot of conquering and raping and pillaging. But there's been a few people in the history of the world who have fought for,
Be
the
the
greater
change.
good of
Be
society.
the change.
Yeah, 100%.
If
And I'm not saying it has to involve killing, but I'm
if
just saying if we
everyone would
can,
understand that these things were bad and they just say, you know what, that's just off the table, the world would be
yeah,
a better place.
100%. I get it. Yeah, and I think it's the debate, man. It's like because there has to be a time whenever you have to step up for yourself and stand up for yourself, or what? It's like I don't know, man. But we're gonna learn here. uh, Actually, I want to talk a little bit before I get into the reading. Just a quick second here. This is a little bit of a summation from Terrence McKenna. Acting in the world without attachment to the fruits of action, or navigating life paradoxes by identifying with the actor. In other words, acting in the world without being emotionally invested in the outcome. And this is to your point. You asked a great question. If you do have to end up killing somebody to protect your life, what's the point? And that is the kind of the whole debate. That's like putting the idea that we're talking about. It's like being invested in an outcome. Like, why does it have to be something that we have to be like? We have to save our lives for something. We don't. Sometimes we just have to do it because we feel it's right. And then after, because the point that I'm trying to make is we would be arguing that somebody who's killing themselves in self defense should be ashamed for what they've done, and I don't think that they should. I think that they should be proud for what they've done. They acted in their emotions, just like people who have fucked up and made mistakes. If we should choose empathy and forgiveness for those people, we should definitely choose it for people who didn't always choose empathy over you know I guess seeing eye to eye. I don't know. Um, but it's very spiritual because killing someone is kind of the ultimate horrible thing you could do. I don't know if I could convince myself to do it, nerdy. I don't know. But I know if I did in a moment of trying to protect myself or my family, that I might would feel bad about it, but I'd have to sit down with myself and give myself a talk that, hey, you just did it to keep yourself safe, man. There was you weren't thinking about an end goal, or you just acted. You just did it, and it was no hate attached to it. There was no joy attached to it. It was just an action. And I feel like those are kind of like the actions that guide us in life. And sometimes they do make us do horrible things, and we learn from them. And sometimes they make us do amazing things that are way overblown, and our ego gets involved and attached to it. And really, at the end of the day, none of it means anything, right? But why are we having this conversation? Why are we doing the show?
I
It's
know
because we're
too
trying to
people
make
that
the
have
world a
had
better place.
that have had to make that difficult decision, and
Right.
they've paid the consequences for it, not just for their time lost from away from their families, but also just the mental toll that it took on them.
Yeah, man. I can't imagine.
And
Can't imagine.
I don't condone what they did, but I see a better person that came out on the other end. Most of the time, not always, but I feel
Yeah, I
like a
get it.
lot of people they I'm not justifying it, but some people have.
That's all I'm trying to say, nerdy. That's literally all I'm trying to say, man. I'm not
But
trying to justify it.
this also
I'm not trying
comes
to
back
condone it.
to
I'm just trying to look at it and say, wow, that's interesting. It's like a lion eating a buffalo. It's
this
like,
also
wow,
comes back to
life.
rehabilitation. People can be rehabilitated. They can see the error of their ways and they can change. I think that's the greatest human superpower, is the ability to change. And
Yes,
we
sir.
all have it. And I've seen so many people change for the better, especially in the T crew. Yeah, especially in the T crew, myself included. But I've never had to make that decision myself, and I find myself extremely lucky to have never had to make that decision.
Yes, sir. And I'm right there.
In another life, I used to enjoy bar fights. You know, I didn't mind. I didn't really go looking for them, but I didn't mind if it happened. And a lot of
That's the
that
difference.
is temporary misunderstanding. Temporary emotions. Like the next day or whatever you think about, it, you're like, that was so dumb. But it could have resulted in something seriously hurt. A lot of times
Yes, sir.
like that, but it was just always this dumb misunderstanding and temporary emotions, as soon as that wears off. But now these days, people don't want to throw hands. They've gotten, I don't want to say soft, but I mean they pick up a gun. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about in someone's life versus, you know, dragging someone to the ditch. That's more
Yes,
honorable.
sir.
Every day there's children that accidentally shoot another child because of irresponsible gun owners. So that is not being tough, like shooting up a person or someone's house or anything like that. But I mean, if I was to have to fight someone, I'd rather fight it with my hands than pick up a gun, in that respect, because we both have a fighting chance versus who has the faster draw, bigger gun or whatever, or better aim. You know what I mean?
Pretty
Better
cowardly.
Yes, sir.
If
Yeah, it's very much like a superhero movie, honestly, because there are a few superheroes who do their thing without killing, right? Nerdy, you could probably name a couple.
Batman.
Yep.
Most Spider-Men.
Yep.
There's a couple that have slipped up, but
But see what my point is. Like
but
you
those
could
are
argue
also
that,
some of my favorite ones too, because of the message
what I
that they
mean?
taught.
Derek, help me quote this correctly. The Serenity Pair. You want to quote that for you? Can you do it from memory?
I cannot.
Yeah. Let me look it up real fast just so I don't misquote it here. And again, I'm not necessarily a Christian follower, but I love the Christian concepts, and this is one of them that is so good to me. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
It's a good one.
That is a good one. Because as much as Ram Dass says, we cannot lead people to enlightenment. They have to let them do that on their own. And sometimes, sparing someone's life does save them, and sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes the
It's
best thing
knowing
you can do
when,
is set a good example.
100%. And the courage to know the difference. I think that's what I think whenever I think about if I ever had to get to a moment whenever I had to protect myself. Because it's like, if I die, so what? I'm like you, man. It's like, I'm a body who's going to die anyway. But I do hope that God gives me the courage to handle that situation the way it needs to be handled in that moment. And if I die, I die. That's the way it needed to go. And if I end up killing someone, that's the way it needed to go. It's just something I needed to go through.
I'm not
But
saying my life
it's
isn't
hard,
worth
man.
defending.
I don't even carry a gun. I don't even have a gun. I don't even own a gun.
What are we talking about?
Right.
What are we talking about? We're just talking about the idea of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not saying that your life isn't worth defending, but I see too many people that are just waiting for the moment for someone to take their shit so they can kill them.
Exactly, man. I see that so often.
That's essentially premeditated right there.
Yes, sir.
And it's but yeah, I think you should be ready for anything, but at the same time, you shouldn't be wanting
It is a difficult conversation, man. Because nothing's black and white.
And being ready to kill somebody over such a petty little thing.
For real, 100%. Derek said.
It's just shit.
100%. Yeah, I've been in arguments, physical fights with people who ever dumb shit, over stupid things that meant nothing at the end of the day.
Like road rage, traffic. Someone cuts me off or something. I immediately start praying, like, Lord, teach them how to drive or take their license. You know what I mean? And then you're done with it. You're releasing it because it's not building up in you. And just like if someone makes you upset on something else, I'll pray on it, pray for that person. So I see someone out there doing people dirty, like taking money and not delivering a product or something. I'll pray for that person instead of having that animosity towards that person, because like it's up to God to speak to their heart and change their actions. Because me hating on them isn't going to, they're going to be living life happy, and my emotions are not going to affect them at all. They're not even going to know. They're just going around happy, and it's consuming you and eating you up. But if you give God, then you don't have to have those feelings and hold them and wrestle with them. You just give it to God. Pray for that person.
Yep, 100%.
Or become their biggest competitor. Whoever, if you have beef with the way somebody's doing something, just do it better.
Yeah, include that in your prayer. Lord, let me be more successful than that person, so that others have a trusted vendor to use or whatever. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
These are the conversations I love to have, because there's like no right or wrong answer. It's a difficult conversation to have, because you're asking it. So there are going to be people who are like, it's never exceptional. It's never okay to kill anyone. Even if they're trying to kill you, just let them kill you. It's fine. But there are other people who always, like you guys said, they're ready to kill anyone at the drop of a fucking hat. Like anything that happens, they're ready to kill someone. So what is the line here? It's difficult. It is difficult, and I believe that line it's real and it lies somewhere. But I believe it moves. It depends on the situation. Again, because
bring it to the Socratic method. Just keep questioning it and keep finding true.
100%.
Oh, sorry, that's an exception, so it can't be true. But I would say that line is do everything in your power not to kill people.
100%. And if people do kill people, just like we should maybe have forgiveness for those people,
there are consequences.
Have forgiveness for people,
even if it's an accident in our society.
100%.
But that's
very
the
true.
way it is, and it already is that way. But you shouldn't want to kill people. That's the line. I understand that there are complicated situations that arise and things happen. There's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, that's the way I look at it. Is like nobody should want to kill anybody. And if you do, there's something else going on.
100%. 100%.
It's not good. Yeah.
It's that living rent free in someone's head part that gets you. That you know what I mean.
I'll go ahead and pull that up, Mark.
Like I was saying, just give it away, give it to God. It's not your struggle, so it relieves you of the burden of having to plot revenge and everything else, and all that is consuming your emotions, and it's just gross energy.
Yep, and that's kind of what I read Mark's quoting here, that being a positive light kind of attracts negative attention to you, and that's so true. So you have to be willing to know how you would handle every type of person in a situation like that, because whenever you are a light, you have to know how to repel things.
When you're a light, you're also isn't it kind of your duty at that point to start leading those people that are lost?
Yes.
So
100%.
Don't punish them. Lead them. Just lead by example. Yep.
I referenced back to that Gandalf clip that I played, where he's trying to do exactly that. To forget his name, horrible. But yeah, he's trying to show him that I hope that you never have to use it. I hope you never do. It's just like preparing your kid for life. I hope you never have to hate someone or tell them, hey man, this is how I really feel. Like I don't want to be angry right now, but I am. And then, you know, I always do though, because it's like I always say to my friends, like I wish misfortune on them, like as long as they're fine. Like I wish misfortune on them because I know they're strong enough to get through it, and I know once they get through it, they'll be a better, stronger person in the end, whatever they're going through.
I don't remember what philosopher said that, but basically said, I think it
Hundred
was maybe
percent.
Hobbes.
I don't.
Maybe it was Hobbes,
Okay.
where he's like a Hobbesian
Okay.
way of thought is that he wishes
Yeah.
the greatest misfortunes on his friends because they'll be better off at the end of it.
100%, man.
It's weird.
And some people are like, "Oh, that's sick that you could think that. Why would you want to wish misfortune on? Obviously, you don't care about them. You don't love them. You know, it's like tough love kind of thing. That's the type of guy that I am. I love that. It's like,
the people
you know,
that
there's
I know
different ways that people receive love.
that have been through the darkest times and gotten through it, I feel like they're better than those that haven't. They're
Yeah,
better off.
100%. They shine more now.
I guess you could say they're more enlightened. But yeah, you had to have seen it. You had to have peered into the abyss and realized the abyss peers back. And I don't know if that's relevant to this, but it's just you have to see how bad things can be to see how good things can be too. You have to understand there's a contrast there.
100%.
I mean, I think something like that could wreck someone. You know what I mean? Like if a person that's very horrible with money, if they're just dropped millions of dollars in their lap, you know, and they have an addiction problem, they'll be dead rather quickly, you know, on their own device. You know what I mean? So there are some people that can use the challenge, and there's other people that can use the blessing, and sometimes the challenge is the blessing.
Let me read some highlights here. So this is out of the first chapter here. So it says that the Supreme Lord said, "You grieve for those who are not worthy of grief, and yet you speak words of wisdom. The wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. Just as a living person, or just as a living being acquires a childhood body, a youth body, an old age body during this life, similarly it requires another new body after death. The wise are not deluded by this. One who thinks that spirit is a slayer and one who thinks that spirit is slain are both ignorant, because the spirit neither slays nor is slain. Just as the person puts on new garments after discarding the old ones, similarly, the living entity acquires new bodies after casting away the old bodies. All beings, Arjwana, are example for Arjwana, and are unmanifest and invisible to our physical eyes before birth and after death. They manifest between the birth and the death only. What is there to grieve about? Whoever kills an innocent human being, it shall be regarded as if he killed the entire humanity. Treating pleasure and pain, gain and loss, and victory and defeat alike, engage yourself in your duty. By doing your duty this way, you will not incur sin. You will not incur sin. You have control over your respective duty only, but no control or claim over the results. The fruit of work should not be your only motive and should never be inactive. Do your duty to be the best of your ability, Arjwana, with your mind attached to the Lord, abandoning worry and attachments to the results, and remaining calm in both success and failure. The calmness of mind is called karma yoga. The karma yogi becomes free when both vice and virtue in this very life. A karma yogi becomes free from both vice and virtue in this very life. Therefore, striving for karma yoga, working to the best of one's ability without becoming attached to the fruits of its work is called karma yoga. That's what we were just speaking about. A person whose mind is unperturbed by sorrow, who does not crave pleasures, and who is completely free from attachment, fear, and anger is called a sage of steady mind. Restless senses forcibly carry away the mind of even a wise person striving for perfection. One should fix one's mind on me with loving compassion after bringing the senses under control. One's intellect becomes steady when one's senses are under complete control. Um, One develops attachment to the sense of objects by thinking about sense objects. Desire for the sense objects comes from attachment to sense objects, and anger comes from unfulfilled desires. We spoke about this, about how there's three things that kind of cause our suffering. It's our desire, it's our arrogance, and our ignorance. Not our arrogance, rather. Sorry, our attachment. The mind, when controlled by roving senses, steals away the intellect as a storm takes away a boat on a sea from its destination, the spiritual shore. And this speaks what I was speaking about. You can never make a wrong decision if you're just acting on your spirit and your intellect, your higher mind, because it's something outside of you. You're not having any hate attached to it or love attached to it. There's no thought or I'm going to get this out of it or this is for this. It's just acting on your free will. It's very hard to do. A lot of us aren't even in touch with that kind of thing, which is why we end up, taking things personally and making assumptions and what have you, right? One attains peace when all desires dissipate within the mind without creating any mental disturbance. Nerdy. Just as river waters enter the full ocean without creating any disturbance, one who desires material objects is never peaceful. It's the same concept as the Buddhist monk talking about touching the water, causing ripples. The spiritual Lord said in this word, a twofold path of spiritual discipline has been stated by me in the past. The path of self-knowledge for contemplative introverts, and the path of unselfish work or serva or karma yoga for all others. So there's kind of the introverted way of living life and the extroverted way of living life. I'd love to get in later on to the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, which talks about the way of aloneness. There are, different ways you can live your life, and you can still make positive changes on you and the world around you, no matter how you want to live. It's kind of great. But yeah. So what we're talking about specifically here is karma yoga. People who go and act and do things for the world around us, even difficult things sometimes. It's like being a superhero. That's the whole idea of being a superhero, is meddling where people don't belong. One of my friends always says that. I think it's a great kind of quote. One who controls the senses by a trained and purified mind and intellect and engages the organs of action to selfless service is superior. Human beings are bound by work that is not performed as selfless service. Therefore, becoming free from attachment to the fruits of work, do your duty efficiently as to serve me. God is pleased by the sacrifice of self-interest, the selfless philosophic work, and blesses selfless persons. One who does not help to keep the wheel of creation in motion by sacrificial duty, and one who rejoices sense pleasure only, that sinful person lives in vain. A self-realized person does not depend on anybody except God for anything. Attachment to the results, because by doing work without attachment, one attains the supreme being. And others attain perfection or self-realization by selfless service, karma yoga, alone. You should also perform your duty with a view to guide people. This is what Nerdy was speaking about, for universal welfare of the society. The wise should not unsettle the minds of the ignorant who are attached to the fruits of work, but should inspire others by performing all work sufficiently without attachments to the results. This is big in my life. I'm going to repeat that part. The wise should not unsettle the minds of the ignorant who are attached to the fruits of work, but should inspire others by performing all works inefficiently without attachments to the results. You can lead people to water, but you cannot make them drink. All work is done by the energy and the power of the nature, but due to the delusion of ignorance, people assume themselves to be the doer of this, incur sin or karmic bondage. Do your duty, dedicating all work to me and in spiritual frame of mind, free from desire, attachment, and mental grief. Likes and dislikes for sense objects remain in the senses. One should not come under the control of these two, because they are indeed two major stumbling blocks on one path of self-realization. I'm about to finish up here in just a second. The Supreme Lord said, it is lust or intense desire for material or sensual pleasures born out of passion that become anger when unfulfilled. Lust is unstable and grows and is a great devil. Also a thought demon is there. You kind of put it. I like to think about. Um, Anger is a huge thought demon. Now this is the enemy. Now this as the enemy, as the fire is covered by smoke and mirrored by dust, and as an embryo by the oh god, the ammonin. Similarly, the self knowledge becomes obscured by lust. So this is what we talk about the smoky mirror, right? Our mirror gets smoky. We're not able to see clearly, and we have to do something to waft that smoke away. Um, the senses in the mind and the intellect are said to be a seat of lust. Lust, by controlling the senses in the mind and the intellect, deludes a person by veiling self knowledge, thus knowing the spirit to be superior to the intellect, and by controlling the mind by the intellect that is purified by the spiritual practices. One must kill this mighty enemy. One must kill this mighty enemy. So that's the whole first chapter right there. Well, not the whole first chapter.
So
yeah,
the enemy is lust, desire,
and desire. Because if we want what the enemy has, if that's the reason why we're killing them, we're doing it for the wrong reasons, Or if we're doing it to make the world a better place or protect ourselves, it's probably the wrong reason. It has to be a thing that we just act on our higher mind, and that shouldn't be out of love, and it shouldn't be out of hate. And if we do that, it's acting on our karma. It's true karma. I have this written down in my notes. It's the boomerang of good intentions. I talk about this. It's very Buddhist Western mysticism practice that I kind of like felt after my first psychedelic experience, that when we do something good, we should do it with the intention of getting nothing in return for it. We should take the boomerang. We should wish it, hey, I hope whenever somebody finds this, that they get what they want and they get what they need. And you toss it out. And if it comes back, when it comes back, if it ever comes back, you've gotten what you deserved. It's your karma. But you have to do it with not expecting it to ever return. And most of the time, it doesn't return, right? Well, most of the good things we do, we don't get a pat on the back for it, or we don't get a freaking award for, hey, I know you did that good thing, or get it for the 4th time this week. And we don't get that. We have to just do it for the kindness and our higher mind, our higher spirituality. It's speaking through God. It's using the universe is using us as a radio tower to either shoot and kill out of anger and hate and aggression, or to love and be kind. And I've said this on the show, and I still stand by this. Love is the answer, always. But that doesn't mean that killing isn't the answer of love. I think there's a line. I really do. And I think that it's great having these conversations because it's divisive. A lot of people are not going to agree. But we should be able to have these conversations. Nobody's killing each other. I don't plan on killing. Like I said, I don't even have to go. It's like Derek said, why are we having this conversation? But it's a difficult. I think if we have talks about the most difficult things that could happen in relationships personally and about the world around us, we can prepare for those things. If we never talk about them, it's as if they'll never happen, and they could definitely happen. We could all be murdered today by tyrants. And what should we do about it? And everyone's going to have a different answer.
I love the saying, I send out kindness and kindness returns to me. And you're saying, like, we do things and we don't get anything in return. I get the return immediately, and I'm sure you do too. You're just not looking at it like that, or you're not saying it like that. But you get that great feeling inside yourself that you done something good, and you didn't have to sit there and use your phone and videotape it and everything, and then post it all over the place. But it's right here. It feels really good when you do something, and it helps.
And that's the best way. That's the best way.
For me, it's like immediately.
That's how you know you're being true and genuine, because you're actually doing it and you're not. That's what I would say. Who are you when no one's looking? Would you still do that thing if no one could see you do it?
Right.
How many of these TikTok people that are going off and posting this stuff on social media, like they're giving money to people and stuff, how many of those people would do that if they didn't have the platform to do it? It's an interesting question. Who are you when no one's looking? What are the sacrifices that you're willing to make?
Your heart here is the platform.
100%.
Do it for that and see how good it feels, instead of the clicks and the likes, and do it
Yes,
without
sir.
the camera. And it's
And
going to be immediate. Otherwise, you set yourself up a disappointment. Like, oh, I gave that dude $500 and I only got 3,000 likes. You know what I mean? You're setting yourself up for
Yeah.
failure that way. You might be successful, and people are like, yeah, but a lot of us are thinking like we are. Like it's our happiness that's important, and it might even seem selfish sometimes when you're doing something.
I know.
Think, I'm doing this because I'm going to feel good, but I know I'm helping someone else. But really, I'm feeling good about it too.
I'm making the world a better place.
Yeah, the ego's not our enemy; it's our friend. We just have to keep it in check.
Yeah.
That's why I talked about the Indian in the cupboard. I showed the clips of that show because that speaks to this. It's like if two men met in the middle of the woods and they had never met another man, they never saw another human being, and they met and they were deciding whether they should kill each other or not. There's a moment of it's the air so thick you can cut it with a pair of scissors, dude. I mean, you have to think about the emotion. Like, do I spare this guy? And if I don't spare him, he's going to kill me. What happens here? How do I solve this problem? And I think it's the ultimate chess move, because people are like, oh, it's just all hypothetical. It is all hypothetical, I guess. But if somebody comes into your house today with a gun and they want to kill you, or a knife, or their bare hands for that matter, it doesn't even have to be about weapons. If they're trying to end your life, how would you react in that situation? And how would you feel if you reacted either way? Whether you did do something or you didn't do something, how would you feel? Yeah. And I think if I feel like if I didn't do anything, I would be doing myself an injustice, because I am here to do good on the face of this earth. And I hope that this show does that. And if I die, I won't be able to do it. So it's like, again, without thinking about the end goal and the attachment, I would think that my higher mind would be like, yeah, you're not done with this. You still have a mission.
Because
you want some near-death experiences, right?
Just because you have no intent to killing the person doesn't mean you're going to do nothing.
Right. We don't know how would we react in a situation like that, because most of us it's never happened to. Right. Some people, like you were mentioning, some of your friends have already had that situation. They know how they've reacted. They know what they would do. It'd be interesting to get somebody on here with that kind of opinion and really talk about it and talk about like the deep stuff about that, the spiritual feelings that you feel or don't feel, right? Or whatever goes through your mind and your heart before, during, and after an experience like that. Be an extreme, crazy conversation. Trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Said the taser, or bear spray. That's a good one.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to save your life, because bear spray and a taser is not going to stop you from an army coming to take you and your people and your village and doing some like
that's one of those situations where you need to understand if this is something you can't do anything about. If there's an army coming after you, what can you do?
Well, we're going to find out. Again,
why would you preemptively stress about an army coming after you?
100%.
It's such a crazy thing that would never happen. Why would you pre-worry, pre-suffering before anything ever happens?
I think we're going to find out, man. It's all great questions, and I think we're going to walk this journey together, and we're going to find out. And if we get to the end of it and have 3 different ideas and conclusions on the end of this, it'll be not unlike every single other thing in all of our lives. By the time we get done watching a movie, we're all going to have watched 3 different movies, and we're going to have 3 different interpretations of that movie. We're going to take 3 things from that movie, or maybe not anything from that movie, right? It's all going to be different. So that's what I hope to get to the end of the story. I hope you guys follow along with us through this, and just stick with us, and we'll try to mix it up a little bit so we're not doing every single Monday Bhagavad Gita. But I think it's a great topic, great idea. We'll get all these questions you asked, Nerdy. We're going to try to hopefully get to an answer by the end of this. Cool.
Some questions don't have answers.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what I've been saying, is that a lot of things are not black and white. They're gray area, right? And I feel like we're going to get to that.
We've been going for about an hour now. I would like to point out that in our Discord, in about 25 minutes, we're going to be starting season 2, episode 2 of Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. It's going to be the peyote episode dealing with mescaline. So I'll be watching that in the Discord. We'll be streaming it for the private members that have already supported the church.
And also, go ahead.
I love what Rich just commented, that true wealth comes from helping those in need.
Well said.
Yep. And that's where I've gotten the most fulfillment, quote unquote, in my life by helping others whenever they were in need and whenever I felt the worst. Whenever I was down and out the worst, whenever I could have, like I talked about this, grieving for my dog a couple months ago. Whenever the moments I could have hated the most and been the most like vindictive with my emotions, I chose to be kind and loving, and that was the biggest reward that I've gotten from being kind. Yep.
The amount of healing that you got from that, and the lack of suffering that you didn't have to
I would still
endure.
be grieving if I didn't do that.
I think so.
Yep.
I grieve for months and months and months for my dog that passed. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what we just read in the Bhagavad Gita is true. That, you know, whether somebody is quote unquote good or quote unquote bad, I think we're just spirits. And when we start to look at it like that, we have an appreciation for people's life and death, no matter who they are. The worst, most evil people. We can just appreciate them being put into a body, into a spirit, and then moving and passing on. And I think that's beautiful. That's what we've been doing for freaking millions of years, passing through from generation to generation, through and on. And these conversations, like in the Bhagavad Gita, have been the most pinnacle moments of our society. The reason why we're having this conversation right now is because two people stood on the battlefield who were brothers from different cultures and had to decide, am I going to spare you or am I going to kill you? And that's why we're here right now, because of a combination of people doing one or the other, or all things in between. Like you mentioned, it's not black and white. There's not like really an answer to this. So it's not an answer to life, what you would or wouldn't do. Sometimes we make mistakes and we kill people and we do it out of anger. And sometimes people will give us forgiveness for that and we learn from it. Are those people not justified for, their experience, for their, change in life? Some people could argue that maybe they didn't change. Should we trust them ever again? I say these same things. They're all great questions, man. But what would you do if no one could see?
Yep.
It's a great question. All right. Thanks, everyone. Cheers for being here today. Come join us over on Mystics for movie night. $5 a month, and that gives you a couple extra perks as well too. So, but that's one of the big things we do. Movie night Monday, we all hang out on Discord, and also join the mysticjourneyschurch.org website for a membership, free to sign up. If you guys want to get the membership right now, we have a promotion that if you guys are 21 plus and you pass our background check, then for like mental evaluation, then we will give you guys a 5-gram chocolate bar with the subscription as well. Appreciate you guys so much for joining in today, and come hang out with us on Discord. You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I just appreciate everybody showing up, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And Peach just gave the plug for the website and everything. And please join and check us out. You can join for free. Yeah. And you'll stay informed and subscribe to the videos. And if you like it, share it. And if you don't, share it anyways.
Cheers, man. Well said.
Tell us what we can change. We would love some feedback, even if it's not the best.
Cool. Right on, man.
Love some honest feedback. We're just starting out and we're trying to do our best. And one way of us being able to do our best is being able to handle any kind of criticism or feedback. So if it's something we can work on or improve, something you'd like to see, you want to join a friend Friday, reach out and let us know. And have a great night. Thank you. Cheers,
man. Well said. This is going to be a difficult conversation to have, guys. So just stick with it. It's like having a difficult conversation with your family. But we're going to do it. One thing before we click out, we're going to be doing a trip report channel. I know a couple of you guys have asked about doing a trip report channel on Discord. That's not part of the membership. You guys, we're just going to open it up to everyone. You guys come onto the Discord, and if you guys really want to do this trip report channel, make sure you go in there and actually put your trip reports on there, because we see it's not getting used, we'll just delete it off of there. But yeah, a couple people have asked about it, so we want to give you what you want. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Bye, everyone.
Good, everybody.